Howdy ho, friends and foes, and welcome to Dads on Life, your weekly episodic show on parenting from a male perspective. I'm your host, Jay Miles, and with me, as always, are my co host, Keith Bogan
Good morning, sir.
and Dave Dusenberry.
Cheers.
Chad is off adventuring somewhere, I'm sure, with his family, and Doug sounds like he's got about 10 projects going on. So neither one of them will be joining us today. So today we're going to be talking about as it just came up, the things we're going through of dealing with different situations that are going on in your life and how to deal with them and still continue parenting and well, try to not have it affect you in your parenting and things like that. I mean, we've all got a ton of shit going on. So let's kick us off.
I'll kick us off since I kind of broached the topic. So yeah, I think one thing I know in my 22 plus years of doing this parenting thing, God help me, is that there are often times where we have to, as parents, have to be able to approach parenting and do what we need to do, set our examples, teach our lessons, and follow our stuff when we are less than 100%. I know for me, I don't like being less than 100%. I like being on top of my game as much as possible, physically, mentally, emotionally, because as parents, we have obligations, we have responsibilities, and we also have wants and needs that we need to take care of. And it can be a lot of work sometimes. Parents often don't get days off, because we have to take care of not only ourselves, but our families and our children and our jobs and our careers and our homes. And there's a lot to that. So being less than 100% and trying to take care of all of that stuff is a challenge. And it's one that I don't like. Fighting through that is tough. I know my wife tells me all the time now that because I'm very driven on that point, I tend to focus on, like, even now I've been battling cold for like 2 weeks, and it knocked me on my ass last weekend for Easter. And you know, even all through the time I'm like laying on the couch trying to recover, and I was like, well, I got stuff to do. I don't like being here. I got stuff to do. Because the work doesn't stop, even if you need to. Finding time to, we talk a lot about self-care and doing the things that you need to do to maintain your health and your sanity, and in some cases your sobriety, to be able to meet the challenges that you do. And how do we stay on top of that? For me, it's tough. It's challenging to find those mental days of rest where I just don't do anything. But I've found them, as hard as it is to get into that mindset, it's necessary sometimes. Like, I needed that rest last weekend. Oftentimes I'll just run, and then one day I'll go to sleep at like 7 p.m. and then sleep till like noon the next day. I'll sleep for like 18 hours. And I don't even realize it at the time. I just pass out, and then I wake up the next day and I'm like, well, I guess I needed that. So, I open that up for you guys. What are your strategies? Like, when you're, whether the kids are young or even now as they're old, how do we stay on top of our game when we're not feeling like we're on top of our game?
Well, I mean, I can kind of go into that. I wasn't fully,
well
I'm
said.
not fully into it because I don't want to get into specifics of the situation. But 2 weeks ago, I was hit with some startling, very sad news. My uncle passed away. We won't get into details, but
sorry to hear that, man.
Thank you. To this minute, the girls don't even know.
Really?
Wow.
They didn't know him very well. They knew him. But as the years had gone on, situations in the relationships had changed between him and I, and things had gotten a little rough here and there. But like I said, I mean, they didn't, and the changes that he went through, they really didn't know who he was and didn't know him. So dealing with that, and then still trying to turn around and not let it phase what I was doing. Not the easiest thing to do. Never the easiest thing to do. But that is, in that situation, really difficult. But you just manage and realize that you can't change what happened or anything that's gone on. All we can do for ourselves is accept it and move on with everything. Move on with your life, because there's nothing you can do about these situations sometimes. Yeah. I mean, and I've talked about it put it this way, I've talked to more people and gotten more perspective on this maybe than I should have, but it's helped dealing with it, and it's still, it's a long process to deal with, but here we are.
Yeah.
Again, I couldn't let it hold me down. I couldn't let it change anything that was going on. Because we, last week was Easter, and we had other stuff to do, with some stuff to do this week. The other thing that that we've found out, as it relates to other situations in my life, is my father, we found out, has to have hip replacement this week, or in the next couple of weeks. So the plant manager at work, I told him on Friday, and he was like, well, he kind of looked at me like, okay, now what? And I looked at him and said, nothing's changed. I said, Mario, I said, my father's only worked 4 days in 3 months. Nothing's going to change. We just keep doing we just keep going in the direction we're going. That's all we can do. Yes, we got summer coming up, but my father, in most situations, in that situation, my father fixed the truck. He'd do the deliveries, and sometimes if nothing was going on at the plant, and it's in and of itself, it was gone by 9 o'clock or 8 o'clock. So
AM.
Right. Yes, AM. I will amend that situation.
For those of our viewers, our massive viewership that don't know what your father and you do, you probably should explain that.
Yeah, so you guys work together, right?
Yes, I'm at work at 6 a.m., usually around 6 a.m., between 6 and 6:30. My mother's there a little earlier than that. My father works from like 1 to 8, unless something's going on in the plant, needs to be fixed or something like that. But and they're usually only there 3 to 4 days a week. But the last 3 months have been, and it's nothing. It's not a big deal. Hasn't been a huge situation. It's something that you'd start to prepare for and just do what you got to do. I saw it coming. Saw the writing on the wall. I mean, I saw him start to slow down and realized, because he had a chair. First he had hurt his groin golfing, and then he had a chair falling, a break underneath him, and he fell. Well, it was thought that it was a fracture in his tailbone at one point, and it just wasn't getting better. Now they found this fracture, and he needs hip replacement. So
yeah, it's pretty major surgery too.
Yeah, he's 75 years old too. So, but again, just keep going, and that's it. That's all we can do. But things
are more challenging to talk to the kids about that sort of thing than to get through work. Getting through work is the easy part.
Yeah, well, with my father, that was one of those things that was not a difficult conversation about my father. That was not a difficult conversation with girls at all. Delena's 13, and
And it's not
Delena,
life threatening or anything.
they both saw him recently and realized they know, they kind of know. Well, he's not. He's still, it's just but they realize quickly that what they're seeing is just physical.
Mhm.
He's still there. He's still him. He's still everything. His health is still normal. This isn't like when he had his heart issues. There isn't that um spectrum of a cloud over everybody's head. We kind of told my father, my wife and I, when we were walking up the driveway on last Sunday, we kind of were like, mentioned hip replacement, and he, no, I don't need hip replacement. And we looked at each other like, Dad, we didn't, we left it at that, but we both looked at each other and went, yeah, you do. We kind of all knew. Yeah, I mean, my mother prepared him and sister kind of prepared him for this week, and I think he was accepting of it by the time he got the news on Friday. Which, like I said, I mean, I think we all when his hip got mentioned, we all kind of immediately went, yeah, he's probably gonna have a replacement. So,
Yeah.
but again,
I
I mean, it's just the world, the world, life being lifey.
know.
We just move forward.
It's hard. It's like, I think about that. Thankfully, I was able to get through my, as I said, 22 years in running, time of being a parent personally myself without having to do any type of major surgery. I've had, injuries. I've had to do physical therapy and things like that for things. Nothing crazy, but I haven't had to endure any type of major surgery in that, excuse me, in that time.
And there it is.
Yeah, exactly. But like my wife now, she spent the majority of her time as a single parent, and she's battled some health issues through her years, and I know she's had some procedures and things like that, and the challenge of having to manage children as a parent when you either physically, mentally, or emotionally can't do what you're supposed to do is hard. Like how, I mean, like in her case, she had family to rely on to help her out, which is
Right.
awesome. So I'm not, excuse me, that's what family is for. I've been fortunate that while my immediate family is small, we've managed to, when needed, pool our resources together to help each other. I've helped my brother out. He's helped me out a ton through various issues. My mom has came through for me while she was with us. Being able to have that, what type of support system do you guys use, especially if you're in a position where you're the only parent in the house, like how do you get through those things and what do you do? What do you think, Keith?
I was gonna say he better say something.
Yeah.
So I've been thinking all along that it was easier as the kids got older, but it's not necessarily because that makes it can fake you into thinking that the responsibility of parenting is less when they get older, but it's not. So, we've got 13 and 10 or 13 and
13 and 10,
11.
yeah. And it's only it in some aspects it's only getting more complicated. Yeah.
Right. And in my house it's not only 24 and 22, almost 25 and 22, but they're not here even. Justin's going to be moving out in a few days. He's getting a place in Plainsboro. Cool. We're great. And Jeremy will graduate in 4 weeks and he'll be back here and he'll live in his dungeon. I won't see him very much because he'll be, secluded with his technology, I'm sure. So it would be easy as a outsider to look at that and say, well, they're grown adults, they can handle themselves and all that stuff. But that would fake you into thinking that parenting never ends. Um, so like almost a year ago, my aunt passes away, and I wasn't particularly close to my aunt, but it was still sort of, there's very few of us left. We have a very, very tiny family.
Mhm.
So that was sort of jarring. And of course, a couple of years ago, my brother passed away, and even
Mhm.
a few weeks ago when the cat passed.
Hmm.
Um,
Mhm.
these are times when you think about, okay, but there's still stuff to do and there are people there. Um, but we've all gone through this. Life continues. You have to do things, but you feel really guilty because what you should be doing is mourning the loss of whoever.
Hmm.
Um,
Mhm.
with the kids around, it would be easy to think, okay, Justin's almost 25, he's good. But I'm still parenting him, and he's still part of that loss. He still felt that loss. Those losses, I should say, not my aunt so per se. He didn't really know her, but
Mhm.
he knew
Yeah.
my brother. He knew my brother. He knew, and he had gotten very close to the cat. Interestingly enough,
Right.
so which is something he swore he would never do. He was like totally like, no, I have no interest in the cat, and suddenly the cat's sitting on him all the time.
Hmm. That's
Um,
the way it works.
yep, oh
Mhm.
yeah, and so it's a different equation. Um, the thing that helps parenting, I think, when you're not at your best, is routine. This is what's wrong with retirement, by the way. When we have a job, when we have structure in the house, we have this model to follow. So even when we're not at our best, we can sort of just check the boxes and walk down the steps of the process and
Yep.
all that.
Go on autopilot.
And when people retire, not that I know or will ever know what the hell that is, but when they retire, they don't have that structure, and suddenly they wander around, they don't know what to do, and they get in trouble. Um, and that's not necessarily about although it could be about parenting too. Maybe,
Mhm.
the people who retire then suddenly start showing up on their kids' doorsteps and like bored, and they want to do something with the grandkids and all that.
Yeah,
Um,
I think there's something to be said for that, actually.
oh, there
Because there's a
absolutely.
lot of routine involved in parenting. There's a
Mhm.
there's a routine, there's a schedule, and one thing we talk about all the time is when kids get older and they um, start having independent lives, they move out, they do their things. You hear about empty nest syndrome, and a lot of that is, you know, that lack of structure, that lack of routine that you're so comfortable in, that you get used to being involved in, goes away, and now you're like, now what?
I am programmed to protect them, to ensure their safety, to ensure their continued happiness. In order to do that, I have to check in on a regular basis. Now, when they're living in your house and 13 and 10 or something like that, you're doing that like hourly.
Yeah.
um, but you don't want to. Your brain doesn't necessarily want to change from hourly when they're living in an apartment
Sure.
in Greensboro or a house in Columbus, Ohio.
Mhm.
Uh, so the adjustments are very odd. And then when you're not at your best, and I just talked about, loss of loved ones, but there's a plenty of things that, when my job gets weird, and it gets weird a lot.
Hmm.
This is the biggest source of angst between Justin and myself, for instance. He understandably gets frustrated because I never stop working. The laptop has been open and I've been working at times every single day since I started this job 17 months ago. This job is
Mhm.
all consuming. And now, fortunately, on the weekends, it's only like a couple of hours each day, but it's still a couple of hours on a Saturday or a Sunday. And then during the week, I'll work 12 to 15-hour days sometimes. So, I come home and, or, even if I work at home, I will, 5, 6 o'clock, most people knock off. I just keep going. We'll stop, we'll have dinner, maybe we'll watch a show or something like that, and then I'll go back to working. And that clearly does not sit well with Justin. So I haven't found the balance. I haven't figured out how to, and that sounds like it's a different topic, but it's not, because
No.
caring for the kids is sometimes just being with them.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am not present as
Yeah.
much as I should be, even when I'm sitting right here.
Mhm.
So I struggle with the balance, and part of that is that I have a very overwhelming job.
Yeah.
So,
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. This is the job that I think we were on our way to. I forgot what show we were on our way to. Either Metallica or the one that you decided that you were going to go to the first Rutgers game before. Um, I remember you telling me that you weren't even sure. You were asked to do some other things by this job, and you weren't even sure this was a job you were going to have at this point. Still,
well,
and here you are, and you're doing too much.
Mhm.
the short version
So
of this,
Justin's not exactly wrong.
I got a call on and I remember this very well. Friday, December 5th, 2022, at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, from some agency saying we really need to hire a HR business partner. And the only catch here is that they have to be able to start Monday. It was Friday at 2 o'clock. I happened to have ended my previous contract fairly recently, before that. So, and it was supposed to be 20 hours a week, and it was only supposed to last 3 months. As soon as I started, instantly 40 hours a week.
Yep.
And it stayed 40 for a while, but then it got really out of hand. And here I am in month 17 of my 3-month contract. So whatever, just the way
It
it
is what it is.
happened.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
I will say another thing of how life has a funny way of paths possibly crossing. This is ironic that I was in Freehold Mall last week, and it seemed like Attack of the Tall Girls. For lack of a better word and lack of better phrasing, of every place we turned around, every store we went into, there was these very tall young women, and one of them was walking around Forever 21. I looked up and went, "Wait a minute! I think that's, believe it or not, I believe it was Dave's daughter."
Yep. Might have been. Might
Yeah,
have
he has not asked. I'm sure he has not asked her, but like I went and sat down. We were doing something. The girls and Elise were in Sephora, which the Sephora in Freehold Mall I cannot go into because it's usually hot, loud, and smelly from the perfumes. So I went in there once with Delana, and luckily she kind of quickly was like, "Yeah," and we walked away. And I told her, I said I was going to come out, tell you to come get me when you needed me. But anyway, yeah, I sat down. I was like, "Dave, is your daughter in Freehold Mall?" Because I looked at the picture from them in Puerto Rico and went, "Yeah, that's her. I'm pretty sure." Um,
Yeah. Might have.
but yeah, mm, like I said, Keith, I don't think Justin's wrong. I think you
Yeah.
need
No,
to.
he's absolutely not wrong. And he and I have had this conversation. He's not wrong at all. I need to figure out how to not do this when, in the traditional non-working hours, if you will. Um, I've never disputed that. There's an allure because I'm an hourly employee that I certainly do get paid, in those hours, but it's
Yeah.
much more about the fact that the job itself is, there's so much to get done, and the demands to get it done in a certain period of time are pretty strong. But I am getting compensated for it, so it doesn't hurt. That does help a great deal, that's for sure.
But
Uh,
it's funny. It's funny because I think about it now, right? So in terms of parenting and the time that's required for parenting, we say that, obviously as it doesn't get easier as our kids get older, but I think one thing that adjusts as our kids get older, and I'm kind of, I'm in the transition period now of that with my three, right? So my oldest moved out in November a couple years ago. My oldest boy is graduating high school this year, and my youngest is a sophomore in high school. We graduate in a couple years, right? So I'm transitioning now from that really be active all the time when the kids are younger, parenting kind of mental approach to my kids are older, starting to express their independence, want to do more things on their own. I need to be on standby to guide them if need be, but allow them the time and the freedom to be able to make some of their own choices and do their own things. So now, what do I do with my time that I was so active before? Well, I need something to keep me occupied. For me, like you, Keith, I mean, I work from home. I come down, I start my day at 7:30 in the morning. And before, like, I'd be up, making breakfast for the kids, getting things done, making sure everything is good, blah, 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 getting into the routine, finish the day, make sure they're doing their homework, and blah, 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 blah. Now it's like the kids, I'm trying to get the kids to the point where they are able to run and maintain their own lives as they see fit. And they ask me questions if they need help organizing that. But I let them make the decisions on how to spend their time, how they want to structure their day, which means I'm not doing it, which means now I need to figure out how I'm structuring my day, you know? So I tend to use that time to, like, lately, the big step is going to be in a couple of years. I'm going to be moving from my place where I'm at now and moving south a couple hours, which is going to be weird in a couple different ways. My my oldest very well could still be living here in Hamilton, and I'll be moving 3 hours away, which means now the safety net is officially off. She lives a mile and a half from me right now. So if something happens, she could always come back. But that will not be the same level of options in a couple of years. And my two boys will be out of the house and going to college in their respective places. And I will now be in a position where I'm going to downsize where I'm living, in a place, a few hours away. That's going to lead to a lot of, how the hell am I going to manage my time? And, to kind of go back on the point of how do we manage and challenge and take care of our kids when we're not 100%? It's kind of like, we want to do a couple of things. We want to work to prepare them to be able to manage themselves. Mm-hmm. That's a big thing with me. I'm really big on getting my 3 kids to be able to make decisions and stick by them, and then work with whatever comes of it, whether it's a good decision or a bad decision, because you're going to have plenty of both. And part of that is teaching them to be self-sufficient. And maybe this is the Gen Xer in me. It very well could be, because that's what we had to deal with. When I'm not 100%, they can still take care of what they need to take care of. And that's kind of been worked in spurts as they were younger, whether it was making a simple meal for themselves, or being able to get up and get dressed and get ready for school without having me banging on their door in the morning to make sure that they're awake. Little things to be able to get them to be to manage their own time and take care of their own responsibilities, independent of me being there or not. That part has gotten a little bit easier as I've gotten older and they've gotten older. It's not 100% yet, but that's kind of been a strategy that I've used with my kids.
Now I have a question for you, Dave. With the new wrinkle of your stepson having a baby. You and Jess were gung ho to move to Delaware. Has that thought changed on in that end of it, or is it a little more difficult now of that thought?
So that's a very, very good point, right? I'm in a position where I'm just not able to stay where I'm. It's just not going to be, from a financial standpoint, it's just not conducive. So if I had the means to stay where I am and be close to my future grandchild, I would stay in New Jersey. I would. For what we want to do and how we want to live our lives, be able to take care of not just ourselves, but our kids and now my grandchild. That's still weird to say. That's going to require resources that where I am now here in New Jersey, I'm just not going to be able to adequately supply. So being a little, I mean, thankfully, where we're going is not crazy. It's not like we're moving to the other side of the country. We're still a drive away. My my wife currently works here in New Jersey and is planning on probably keeping that for a while, which may mean she she has the opportunity to potentially work like a hybrid type of schedule where she would work in the office 1 week and work from home 1 week. She would be willing to come up to this area from our house, potentially stay with family in the area, and get plenty of time with the grandchild if need be. Um, so like we're working on different ways that we can make that work. And the one nice thing is where we're going is it's kind of out of the way. It's quiet. So if they wanted to come down and visit,
Mhm.
it's a nice quiet area. It's away because they're in a more urban area up in Northeast Jersey.
Oh,
So
geez. Okay.
so having a place to come to that has a little bit more
Okay.
space and it's a little bit more quiet may be a good kind of contrast in terms of like exposure to different areas. So, there's I tend to be I'm a very much a glass half full guy. I'm Captain Optimism. So I try to look at positive benefits of making potential change rather than, and saying, how can we make this work as a better situation?
Just when you thought you had it all planned out, a grandchild.
It's, oh man, kids screw up plans. That's what they do. Whether they're our own or whether they're the next generation. They throw a monkey wrench in everything. But as life goes, you do what you can with what you have and you work with it. I haven't talked a lot about it here with our podcast and really out loud as much because I got a couple of other things that are kind of really keeping my mind occupied right now, but I'm really kind of looking forward to that role of being a grandparent. I think that'll be really cool. It's the fun of parenting without all the responsibility of parenting. So I
Yeah,
think
but it
that'll
might
be
still
really cool.
cut into your XFL football games occasionally.
Well, that's okay. I can get my granddaughter a little Defenders jersey, and we can make that work. That's okay.
Oh, Jesus.
It's very interesting the cycles that go on because I mean, really, the more I think about it, look, Justin left for 5 years. He was in
Uh-huh.
South Carolina for 5 years. And 2 of those years, Jeremy was in Ohio.
Mhm.
So nice size house, nobody here. No, parenting responsibilities were mostly on the phone.
Yeah.
Now we know, of course, I have this habit of hopping in the car and going to visit them periodically, or a little bit
That
more.
Periodically?
once in a while.
Who the hell are you trying to get?
But with that said, the majority of the time it was, just check in with a text or something like that. To which, of course, they would ignore it most of the time, but I'd still check in periodically. Um, and it's not that it's the same thing as having a grandchild and starting the cycle over again, but with Justin coming back to Central New Jersey and living under my roof after 5 years, I'm sort of back to, well, there's a certain responsibility, not in taking care of him, but simply being available and perhaps spending time with him that I may, we all joke about how often I would go to South Carolina, but there's a difference between that and living together. So I had certainly gotten used to nobody being here. And just when I'm about to be free of, with Justin moving to Plainsboro, here comes Jeremy.
Yeah.
so, so I'm still, it's a constant adjustment. And I'm not the kind of person who gets sick. I unbelievably very rarely ever get sick. So it's not like I'm physically down. Uh, but I have my times. I've had my share of losses, like we talked about, or the job is daunting, so I have to think about how to spend some time with him, but still try to get done the responsibilities of the job. Um, like everyone else, we have things to do. I've got my minimal family is in Denver and Los Angeles, so trying to spend a little bit of time out there with those guys when possible. e- in some ways it is easier to, because they're older and I can just, it's like having a cat versus a dog.
Mhm.
I can leave a cat here for a couple of days and they're fine. Dog, you got to walk all the time. So the
Yeah.
dog is, so to speak, the younger child, and the cat is the older adult child.
Mhm.
Which is, by the way, why I always want cats. I love dogs, but there's just I'm not here enough to do that.
Yeah.
And it would be interesting as a single guy if I ever met somebody who had a younger child. One of the things I would have to do is remember how to, I hate to say it this way, have a dog
Mhm.
more present, because the younger child would need more attention.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true.
It would be a very interesting challenge for me. I would be consulting with Jason all the time. Yes.
But yeah, what I think a big thing is just, I guess the strategy that I've used is, relying on resources, whether it's family, friends, um, neighbors. Neighbors not as much these days. It's funny because like I've been in
It's
my
not
my
neighbors.
place for 9-10 years. I mean, and look, every situation is different. I've been here for like 9-10 years. I don't really know my neighbors that well. I've talked to them in
Common,
passing. I've said hi.
very common story.
That used to be much more of a thing. I mean, God, when I was younger, I used to be babysat by our next door neighbor. I remember that. Um, but not as much these days. So it's mostly family, friends, and cohorts, and then planting the seeds to allow my children to be more self-sufficient, to allow them to make their own decisions. And sometimes allowing them to make their own decisions means that they're going to fail and they're going to learn hard lessons. And then you kind of have to step back and let them do that. Be here if they need it, but really kind of, a key part of learning a lesson is learning the consequence of bad choices. So, my kids have experienced that, um, but also supporting them when they make choices that may be challenging in some way, but still, they feel they need to do it for their own well-being. My older son recently has done something like that. He's made a choice that kind of um made for an uncomfortable situation in one sense, but ended up being better for him in the long run. I believe, um, to move forward with his life. So I'm not going to go crazy into details about that. Um, but uh, long and the short of it is he's decided to basically live here full time, um, as of a few weeks ago, um, which is a
Wow.
change.
Okay.
It's something that uh, I think he felt was necessary. So if he feels that it's necessary, I'm going to support him on it.
Hmm.
Um, one of my go-to lines that I tell my kids is that I will support you as hard as you are willing to support you. If this is something that you feel is important to you, I will back you on it. If it's blatantly wrong, I'll counsel you against it. But that's not the case in this particular instance. So,
Well, that, that
um,
that seems like that should be something that, yeah, you definitely would be receptive to if you can do it.
mhm,
Yeah, that's your son. So yeah, that's in a way it's a no brainer
mhm,
if it's possible.
yeah,
To me, it would be.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And it's funny because like now it's a blessing in a way for me because, well, I have to carve out a lot more time in my workday because now I have to take him to like medical appointments, things like that. Like, where, you know, prior scheduling meant that a lot of that stuff was done when he wasn't with me.
Mhm.
So I'm picking up on that scheduling now. But the other thing is my older son is now 18, and now I get to show him how to be responsible for his own scheduling. Say, you need to make these appointments, you need to make this phone call, you need to talk to these people, and you need to do this. Rather
Mhm.
than doing it for him, now I get to guide him and say, you are now of age to be able to take this responsibility and work on it. I'll work with you, but you are going to do this. I am not going to do it for you.
Right.
So
Right.
we're doing all of that stuff where I'm also now getting a chance to do something that I didn't get a chance to do with my oldest, and that's plan for and go visit colleges. My son's gotten a couple of scholarship offers. He's gotten accepted to his top 2 schools that he wants to go to. He's gotten acceptance letters. He's going to do some accepted student kind of visits. One of which is on campus up in Massachusetts. The other one is a remote session that's actually that we're going to tomorrow evening up in Piscataway for Temple University.
Wait a minute, Piscataway Temple? That's
The
Remote.
Temple's doing something in
He said
Piscataway.
remote.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, but we're gonna go. We're gonna check it out. He's gonna get some information, and the plan is by the end of the month, he's gonna figure out which school he wants to do. You know, and then I get to pay the deposits and get things rolling on it. You know, and I'm kind of excited about that. My daughter was always kind of on the fence about doing college. She did 1 semester of community college. It went, her heart wasn't into it. Which I understand because I was in the exact same position when I was her age. But my son is really driven about what he wants to do and where he wants to go. And I'm excited to be able to kind of take the lead and guide him through there, even up through like moving him into wherever he decides to go for college. Like I'm looking forward to being a part of that process and seeing him through that and getting things done. That's I'm excited about that, even with everything else I got going on.
You're not allowed to do anything but focus on that now.
Yeah, right. I wish. Unfortunately, I have to move in 6 months.
I thought it was a couple of years.
It is a couple of years, but I have to move a little bit earlier than that. Unfortunately, the gentleman that owns my house is in need of putting it on the market.
Oh boy.
So are you going to Delaware in 6 months?
No, I can't. I have to be in town while my youngest is still in high school. So I'm gonna.
So we're gonna have a pizza party. We're moving.
Yeah.
Okay.
Pretty much. Yeah. I'm probably there's a good possibility that I'm going to be going from like a 5-bedroom house to like a 2-bedroom apartment.
Okay.
Yeah. So my wife and I are looking at options, but we're going to stay in Hamilton for a couple of years. You know, with a goal of moving into a new place probably by September 1st or so. And because of the gentleman that owns my house now, he would tell any potential or buyers of the houses that there's a rental agreement now and that I am, you know, my lease is up August 31st. So
well, at least he'll do that. That's good.
Yeah, he's been fantastic. But you know, my buddy who owns this place, he's been very direct and very honest. We've been very upfront. My challenge is I have a 5-bedroom house full of stuff for 10 years. Now I got to figure out what the hell to do with it all. And yeah, I can't move it down south just yet. I have to wait a couple of years. So I got to either sell it off, find a place to put it, or toss it. And that's a lot of decisions to make. And it's not the easiest thing for me sometimes.
Understandable. Is this new news? Because I didn't know about this.
Fairly new, within the last 2 or 3 weeks.
Ah.
Yep.
I know I'm a priest, but I did not know.
Yeah, there's a lot that I have going on that I don't necessarily share with the public, because it's my shit and I need to worry about it.
Yeah.
A little insight for all of you out there watching this. So, but yeah, you know, the goal is to hopefully get my kids to be able to take care of themselves, and do what they need to do so that when their cycle comes up, if and when they choose to have kids and become parents and role models and whatnot, to be there as resources for them for as long as I'm on this planet, but also give them the tools to be able to take advantage of whatever they need to do, find whatever means they need to take care of what they got to take care of, even when they're not 100%.
Yeah, now I got all sorts of things percolating in my head about stuff I should be doing with the kids or guiding with the kids. One of the challenges I have that is the same trap that I think every parent falls into, sometimes briefly, sometimes they never get out of, that the kids are not the same. So Justin blossomed very nicely, and Took on responsibility very well. As an accounting major, he knows how to budget and he knows how to plan money and all that sort of thing. He's 20, he's not even 25 yet, and he's already got good retirement savings built up, and he's done a long job paying off his debt in terms of student loans. I mean, he's really got a sharp edge on responsible activities as a growing person. I'd like to assume his brother's the same way, and I'm not going to jump to the conclusion that he isn't yet, but I'm nervous about that.
Mm-hmm.
Jeremy is very wired about having wheels when he gets home. So much so that for the last 3 months, he keeps sending me cars that he wants, I know he wants me to go check them out and potentially go and buy them. And he's going to buy it. He has the money saved up. But you don't have a job yet. So where is the monthly payments coming from? Where is the car insurance money coming from? So I don't know if he's gotten to that point yet where he has put those things together and no, dad's not going to be bailing you out on your monthly payments. This is a responsibility you're taking on yourself, even though it'll be in my name because it's a lot cheaper if it's in my name. He being 22, we know what insurance does to people who try to own cars, especially guys. So parenting from a distance is also interesting when you have a lot of other things on your plate. You have to make sure you remember the stuff that's not physically right in front of you. By methodology of potentially not ignoring him. I didn't ignore him when he suggested the cars, but I didn't act very quickly because it makes much more sense for him to come home, make sure he has a job. And I think he's worried that he won't have access to wheels. I'm like, I'll just take the bus to work every day. I'll walk to the bus stop from here.
Yeah.
You're going to have my car most of the time. Who cares? No big deal. But it will also incentivize him to get employed fairly quickly, hopefully.
And, that kind of ties in, like, my kid's like, if you need to use my stuff, that's fine. But understand that if you want unilateral say over what you do, where you go, and how you want to do it, well, if you're willing to pay the money to make that happen, then you can make that happen. My daughter felt that when she got her car. I said, well, you're going to get a car. Okay. You're not in college full time. Okay. Well, then get a job, find the money to be able to afford insurance for it. Thankfully, we bought she managed to get a secondhand car for like $500, right? Not a lot of money. So she doesn't have to do car payments, but she has to do car insurance, registration, gas, and repairs, things like that. But from the beginning, I was like, if you want to drive, there is a responsibility that comes with that. You need to be able to understand if you're paying for that cost, you appreciate what that responsibility is more. And I think it's something, I guided her to get insurance through the same place that I get it, for enough coverage to drive for not a crazy amount of money. It's decent, but not a crazy amount. And you go with it from there. I'm going to guide, my plan is to guide my boys the same way. In fact, my oldest was, he had gotten an accident. He had gotten a car from on his mom's side fairly recently and had a little fender bender that kind of screwed up the car. It was like $1,000 car. It wasn't crazy, but enough to basically total it. And he was interested.
Much then. It doesn't take much.
He was interested in getting another car when he came here. And I was looking at different options, and I saw a couple that looked pretty good. And I said, but the challenge was if he's looking to start college in September, freshmen for the most part are not allowed to bring cars to campus, right? So I was like, well, so I was like, so we'd be getting you a car, you'd drive it for 6 months, and then you'd have to leave it here, and then it would just like nobody could use it. Now, if I were staying in my current home, not a problem. I got plenty of parking spaces here. Where I don't know where I'm going to be looking to go. If I'm going to be moving into a complex, there's very limited parking there. And it's not like I could just have something sitting in a parking spot for months and months and months at a time. It's just not conducive. So, he's had to make that choice. But it's funny because, again, teaching my kids to be self-sufficient, how to manage situations like that. I was like, well, what are your options? He's like, I don't know. I'm like, well, What are the costs of ride shares? If you have to do Uber and Lyft, if you want to take a trip somewhere, think about how much it would cost to buy a car, pay for insurance, pay for gas, pay for maintenance and repairs, take up that amount, and then divide that by 6, and then see if you're going to be paying more than that or less than that getting a ride share every now and then. And I think he's actually going to go the ride share route, because I think for him it makes more sense, at least
Mhm.
for now.
I would agree.
Yeah.
It can add up quickly. He has to be careful, but I would agree.
Yeah, I mean, between friends and cohorts that he has where he'll chip in for gas and they'll drive around, or if he needs to get someplace, he just uses the rideshare service. Like, I think you could do what you need to do, especially if he finds a part-time job over the summer that's local that he can walk or bike to. Then you do that, and you end up saving a little bit of money. So, but like that's teaching the decisions rather than just doing it for them. Like, that's a big thing with me. I want to these are your options. None of them are 100%. Look at each one and figure out which one's going to work best for you, and you tell me which one you want to do.
Very good point. Very good point.
So
Parenting never ends.
it doesn't.
It doesn't.
It doesn't.
end. Boy, this weekend is certainly an example of it, because now I'm not going to. I wanted to go. I said this before we started the call. I wanted to take Justin, and we were not take him, because I don't take a 25-year-old anywhere. We were going to together. We were going to go together to Cleveland to watch the women's basketball championship game, to actually go to the game, and it kind of fell through because of money issues. But I'm going to stay here and watch the game with him. But I still have the obligation that I set up with Jeremy to go and be with him for the Eclipse. So at 6 o'clock tonight, I'm going to leave and I'll probably arrive around 9 or 3:30 in the morning in Columbus, Ohio, so that tomorrow we can watch the eclipse together. And then around 5 o'clock or so, 5:30 in the afternoon, I'm going to leave him to drive home so I can go to work Tuesday. But I won't get home until 3 or 3:30 in the morning. But these are things that, and I'm not sure if it's more for them or for me, but I want to do these things, and I think they're important to both of them that we do these things.
Yeah, agreed.
So balancing these things, sometimes at the sacrifice of my own, I'll just call it my own rest, proper rest. I don't want to quite go as far to say health, but these aren't healthy things to do.
No, say the least.
No, they're not. Well, again, hold on. Again, we have
Yep, 5-hour energy. My go-to before every single show I play.
Did you notice that they're sitting right on my desk here as I work?
Every time I play a gig, I stop at Wawa and I get 3 things. I get a huge bottle of water, I get a big thing of Gatorade, and I get a thing of 5-hour energy.
See,
And
that's really funny that, because you only do gigs every so often.
Yep.
I buy the 12 packs from Walmart. Now they'll last for 3 months.
Yeah.
But I buy the 12 packs a lot cheaper that way. Way cheaper that way. You go to a Wawa, you're gonna spend $4, $4.50 per little bottle.
Yeah.
I get them for like $2.10 a bottle. So I plan ahead, but they do last a while. It's not like I drink them all the time by a long shot.
Yeah.
I don't have more than one every couple of weeks. So it's slightly less than an addiction, but I have a feeling I will have a couple of them tonight and tomorrow.
Chances are good.
Yep. Or at least the combined, I'll have one whole one. So we do different things to make sure we can be there and fulfill our responsibilities. And when we're very tired, we do other different things to make sure we can be there.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's relying on others. Sometimes it's relying on the substances that allow us to function.
That's right, and they're legal, so it's okay.
Yes, be it high levels of ibuprofen, whether medication du jour or caffeine extraordinaire.
Absolutely.
I've had to use all of those in my time. That's for sure.
And
Cool.
that, by the way, chewing gum really helps too when you're really tired and you're driving. Chewing absolutely mandatory. So I will take 2 full packs with me and two bottles when I do a round trip to Ohio. We should have a whole show, Jason. We should have a whole show based on medicinal ways to get through, to stay awake for things like this.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
can make it an endorsement episode. We'll just like line them up on our desks and like hold them up in front of the camera.
Yeah.
Do you think, Jason, as our leader, I think you should reach out to the 5 Hour Energy people and see if you can get a sponsorship.
Yeah. Yeah.
For
Good luck
dads
with that.
everywhere.
Good luck with that one.
And on that note,
Yeah, I think that's
I'm getting ready to get out of here. I don't
There
know
you
if
go.
see that.
Yeah.
that's-
I got about 5 of them here.
Time for blackout glasses.
Yep.
I think that's probably a pretty good place to leave us for this week. Anybody have anything they want to add before we head out?
Take care of that wrist there, dude.
Yeah.
We'll be all right. Thank you. So from all of us here at Dad's on Life, take care, everybody, and of course, Keith, eat my shorts.
Chomp chomp, brother. Chomp chomp.